Right, guys. So let's get straight into this. And as always, feel free to keep your questions going. I'll sort of answer them as we go along. But one of the reasons I wanted to put this together is like the last few weeks. As I mentioned, I mean, we can't travel now, and we all desperately want to get out into the field. But a lot of people have asked about safaris sort of in 2021, and even sort of past that, even planning 2022. And the question often, or the email usually starts, I want to go on safari, and what would you recommend? And there really is, I mean, there's a million and one options out there, but there has to be something that sort of planted the seed of traveling to Africa in your mind, whether it be watching a documentary, or even just looking at photos. Nowadays on social media, you're exposed to so many images that it had to be sort of something that you looked at to say, that's what I want to experience. And I think that's what I'm going to break down to you a little bit more. And I've sort of broken it down. It's in very broad terms, but East Africa and Southern Africa, and how those two sort of differentiate, and some of the plus and maybe some of the negative sides to each of them. So let's start off with East Africa. So I've broken it down from, I think there's quite a few factors that you have to consider from a safari point of view. Like the landscape, as I mentioned. Like I said, there had to be something that you sort of saw on an Instagram post or on a video that sort of made you feel that that's where you want to go. And East Africa and Southern Africa, very, very different from a landscape point of view. I also touch on different vehicles that are used in East Africa versus Southern Africa. And also then just the types of accommodation, because that is also something that needs to be considered when you go on safari. Some people would prefer more the luxury side of things, and some people would prefer more the rustic type of experience. And of course, budget is also something that needs to be considered when approaching any of these things. So East Africa as a whole, very sort of, for me personally, very iconic Africa. I think it's a lot of the documentaries and even movies that's been made of safari or of Africa usually includes East Africa somewhere. So it's sort of iconic, wide open plains. And I remember sort of guiding in South Africa, and people often said, where are the open plains that we saw on the documentaries? And that is why it is so important to do your research on sort of what the areas look like. And East Africa definitely has got that sort of vast open plains and those iconic single trees, the acacias or the balanatis trees that you often find in these areas. And for me personally, I am very, very drawn to East Africa. Absolutely love it. I won't say one is my sort of favorite, but East Africa definitely sort of speaks to me, both from an experience point of view and also from a photographic point of view. I think it is a little bit easier to photograph in East Africa if you're just starting off with wide open plains, big skies. I think one of the downsides when it comes to East Africa is a lot of the times you can't go off the road. There are certain places where you can, like in the Mara Triangle. I know certain areas that do allow for off-roading to take place. But let's just make this a bit bigger. I mean, look at that scene. It is absolutely spectacular. And I mean, that is East Africa through and through. Especially the Masai Mara and the Serengeti, wide open plains, and of course, fantastic predator viewing. Again, your single balanatis trees, you really don't get that in Southern Africa. It's very much a East African thing. And if that's the sort of scene that you want to experience and see for yourself on safari, then you definitely want to sort of add East Africa to your list, whether it be the Masai Mara or Serengeti. Very, very similar in their landscape, but like I mentioned, definitely not something that you'll get in Southern Africa. And of course, there are some places that's really iconic. if you think of the Masai Mara, the Great Migration, and also in the Serengeti, if you want to see these kind of numbers, then those are your two reserves that you want to go to. Obviously, the Great Migration, as we know, it happens throughout the year, so it's not a particular year where you see the migration, but there are different stages, if you like, for the Great Migration. So to get big herds like this, pretty much all year round. But if you want to get those river crossings, then you want to be in the Masai Mara around about that July, August period. July, August, September, October. That's usually when you get those river crossings. River crossing, like I mentioned, guys, it is a mind-blowing experience. It can be very frustrating. I remember the first time I ever went to the migration, it was just before I joined Wildlife. I was doing photographic safaris for another company, and we got there, and my sort of thought process was that these animals, they come down to the river and they jump in and they cross, and it's in their hundreds of thousands. I've waited at the river before for like 3, 4, 5 hours for these animals to cross. So it can be a very frustrating thing to see or to wait for. But man, once it goes down, it is unlike anything you've experienced from a wildlife point of view anywhere in the world. So you're not going to go to Southern Africa if you want to see something like this. This particular sort of the river crossings, that is generally, you can get it on the Tanzanian side as well, in the Serengeti, where they cross the Grumeti River. But a lot of the times then they will be crossing away from you. So this crossing towards you, that side of the river is actually the Mara Reserve, National Reserve. And then where we are is in the Mara Triangle. So this is them coming towards us, which from a photographic point of view is obviously pretty amazing. And then, there's incredible sort of unique experiences that you can do in East Africa. Like I mentioned with the migration, probably one of the best places to do a hot air balloon. I think maybe the Serengeti and the Masai Mara, wherever the migration is peaking in that particular time, is phenomenal. Also places maybe in Southern Africa, over Namibia, like around Sossus Vlei, super experience. It is really, the balloon ride is about 45 minutes. It is unforgettable when you have millions of wildebeest and zebras below you. Okay, then also a place like Amboseli, very iconic. Again, wide open spaces. To photograph elephants, I think probably one of the best places, and very sort of unique, iconic scenes. The thing I love about Amboseli is it's a very predictable place from an animal movement point of view. So here you can see it's like a big marsh or swamp, and that's where the elephants go to every single day. They come from the woodlands in the morning at the base of Kilimanjaro. From those woodlands, they come through, they get to the wetlands to get to water, and also to sort of throw some mud on themselves. And then as the sun starts setting late in the afternoon, they'll then move from those wetlands back to the woodland areas. So, to line up your shot is a really, it's actually probably one of the easiest places to sort of get your shot together. There's one of the big lakes. Unfortunately, behind that where the clouds are, that's where Kilimanjaro is. And unfortunately, on this particular day, we didn't have that view, but you can just see the beautiful lake. It really is a very iconic reserve, and very easy to combine that with the Masai Mara. It's a very short flight, about an hour and a bit flight from the Masai Mara into Amboseli. So very easy to combine these two places together. And then, of course, the iconic Kilimanjaro. It's a scene that really takes your breath away, and very iconic. I mean, if you want to get an image like this, first of all, it's very easy, but the only thing is you have to go to Amboseli. There's no other place where you can get Kilimanjaro and these elephants together, which I think is super special from a photographic and experience point of view. When you start traveling to certain areas just to get those those certain images or experiences. And that's why, you know, when you see this, you're not going to travel to the Masai Mara or to the Serengeti or to any place in South Africa. This is iconic to Amboseli, and it really is an incredible, incredible experience. Once again, you know, it is that beautiful. It really, really is, and very, very easy to photograph. So these are the vehicles that they use for the large part of East Africa, the closed vehicles with the pop-up roofs. This was us in the Serengeti a couple of years ago, and in the beginning, I must be honest, I wasn't a big fan of the vehicles. Just sort of looking at them, you know, you often sort of feel that you want a bit of a lower angle from a photographic point of view. But, you know, over the years, I've really have fallen in love with these vehicles. And there's quite a few reasons for that. I see your question. Thank you so much. I'll get back to them now. First of all, your pop-up roof means that, you know, you can stand up while you're driving in the vehicle. For me, there's nothing worse. I'm quite tall. There's nothing worse than sitting for 3 or 4 hours without being able to stand. Like when you try and get out the vehicle, you almost roll out. So this gives you the ability to stretch your legs, to give you a bit of a sort of a view as you drive around. And as you can see, if you want to get that lower angle from a photographic point of view, you have got the bottom windows as well. There's plenty of space in the vehicles. And the reason why a lot of the camps or the companies use these vehicles is you would often drive on national roads. So for our best of Serengeti safari, we drive from Arusha into Tarangire, and Tarangire into the crater to Ndutu, and then Ndutu to Eastern Serengeti. So you obviously can't do that in a vehicle that's totally open. And I'm going to be showing you the vehicles in Southern Africa shortly. But these vehicles, a lot of them at the back, they've got a electrical cooler box, so you can put your drinks in there. They stay nice and cold, but very, very comfortable vehicles. And I must say, I absolutely love them. These are our vehicles in the Mara. You see slightly different. If you look at the back windows, what we've done is we've actually taken the glass out. So you've got like a bigger view. And then there's also a pole, almost like a quarter of the way through, where you can then rest your beanbags on there. From a photographic point of view, it is absolutely golden. What I like about these vehicles as well is it caters for sort of all weather conditions. So if it rains, you can quite easily, you see the windows at the back, it's just a canvas roll. So you roll that down, it's got Velcro, stick it down, and you just close the roof. So you can still photograph and do game drives even when it's raining. Whereas with an open vehicle, you're a little bit more limited to that. So yeah, I honestly love these vehicles. In Kenya, we use them a lot as well for our best of Kenya safaris. So a lot of it will be then driving sort of to Amboseli or to the Masai Mara. You do Lake Nakuru and Lake Naivasha as well. So very, very comfortable vehicles, and definitely the way to go. In fact, in the Serengeti, I think it was last year, we were given the option between this vehicle and the open vehicles in the Eastern Serengeti, and I decided I wanted to go with these vehicles just because they're so comfortable, they're so spacious. And what we've also done, I don't know if you can see it in this particular photo, but usually these vehicles will have 3 rows of seats at the back. So we've taken that middle row out. So we only take 4 guests per vehicle, and 3 guests per vehicle, and then 1 guide that sort of rotates between the vehicles. So that means you've got more than enough legroom, you've got more than enough space to put your camera bags down. Yeah, they really, really work well. I'm just going to get to the questions just before we move to Southern Africa. Elena says, please feel free to wait until the end of the East African section. You've been to more frequent places in East Africa, Serengeti, Mara, etc. How would places like Samburu or Ruha compare in terms of both wildlife and experiences? Elena, I actually haven't been to Ruha before, but I've spoken to Andrew Beck, who he hosts our safaris there. It looks phenomenal. It really, really does. I think, I really don't think, I mean, Ruha has got good game viewing. if it's as good as the Serengeti, I'm not so sure. But I mean, he's had phenomenal viewing of wild dogs there. He's had good leopard viewing, so good lions. So Ruhr is fairly good, very good up there. It's also a great combination, I think, if you combine it with something in East Africa. So combining it with Serengeti would be incredible. Samburu, I was at Samburu quite a long time ago, about 5 or 6 years ago. Very good viewing, good elephants. And what I love about Samburu is it's got quite a few unique animals. Garanuk, I don't know if you've seen what a Garanuk looks like. It's a weird thing. It's almost like an impala, that impala crossed with a giraffe almost. It's got this very long neck, weird looking animals. You've got reticulated giraffe that live there. So it's a great area to see unique animals and very good game viewing. Again, I don't know if it's quite up there with the Masai Mara, but as a destination to combine, I think it's incredible. I think a lot of the times, we and I think maybe we at fault with that as well, is we don't often give enough options to combine particular safaris. It is something that we're working on now as we speak, to combine more places in East Africa together. So like you mentioned, Ruhr with the Serengeti as an optional sort of extra or a bolt-on. Same thing with Samburu and the Masai Mara and Amboseli. All of those, if you combine it, then also you have all of a sudden you have a safari experience that's sort of 14, 15, 16 days instead of just 1 week. Okay, so Charlotte asked why the closed vehicles are used. Charlotte, the major reason for that is using it on the open public roads, the tar roads. Often a lot of these companies will pick people up in Nairobi and drive them through to the respective reserves. For our Mara season, we actually fly in from Nairobi into the Masai Mara, but our vehicles will then have to drive on the public road. So that's the main reason for it. But like I said, it's great from sort of all weather point of view, and also a lot of space in it. I hope that helps. Okay, then let's get to Southern Africa. So here you can see, this is us in the Sabi when I think this was a seminar that we hosted, yes, a couple of years ago. And you can see now the vehicles, very, very different, right? Open vehicles. And you also see the vegetation is a lot different. So especially in that Sabi Sands or the Greater Kruger area, you've got beautiful big trees, but also very lush. So especially shortly after the rains, can be quite thick. So you're not going to get those wide open plains that you got sort of in East Africa. Okay, you can see open vehicles. These vehicles also get modified depending on season. So a lot of them have like a sort of a canvas roof that can go up. So it's got 4 poles. They stick it up there. That's usually for the summer months. Personally, I prefer the vehicles open like this. I think it just gives you more of a sort of 360-degree view, especially if you've got something up in a tree. It gives you the ability to photograph easily without having the roof in your way. But of course, during summer, it does get quite hot. So then that bit of shade comes in very handy. You see three rows of seats. We usually have 4, maybe maximum 5 guests on it with a guide. So then 2 people per row. There is a seat in the middle then where you can put your camera gear or your binoculars and things like that. So more than enough space. Also very, very comfortable vehicles. Okay, so this is in Madikwe Game Reserve. You can see a little bit thicker vegetation. Okay, so not those wide open plains. So it can be a little bit more tricky from a photographic point of view. But the big advantage with Southern Africa in most parts, I mean, definitely in South Africa, but also Zambia and Zimbabwe, some of the parks allow you to go off-road, which you don't, like I mentioned, you don't often get to do in East Africa. So you do tend to get a little bit closer to the animals. But yeah, it's a little bit sort of denser in vegetation. It does give you the option to get a little bit sort of more close-up portraits because you are able to go off-road. But the Sabi Sands in particular, very, very good all-round Big Five viewing. So if you want to come to Africa and sort of maximize your chances of seeing the Big Five, then I would say the Sabi Sands is a really, really good bet. It's got very good leopard viewing, especially. I don't think there's many places that can compete with the Sabi Sands from a leopard viewing point of view. Again, also in the Sabi Sands or in South Africa, very good rhino viewing in general. As we know, obviously poaching over the years has become an issue, but there's still very good white rhino populations in South Africa. Black rhino is a little bit more scarce, but these guys, they really are absolute gentle giants, and yeah, such a pleasure to be able to spend time with and to view, whether it be in a vehicle or on foot. Again, like I mentioned, Sabi Sands, very good area for leopard. And the really cool thing about the Sabi Sands is that the leopard have become quite habituated to humans. And that's just purely from a vehicle sort of point of view. You know, there's quite a few vehicles that go out, but they have quite a strict policy in South Africa, and probably for the most of Southern Africa, actually, that they only have 3 vehicles per sighting. So in this particular case, if you've got a leopard like this, maximum of 3 vehicles. Whereas in East Africa, you know, they don't have that policy. It can be more vehicles. There is the plus and negative side to both of these things. I'm going to start off with the plus side. Just having 3 vehicles in a sighting is the obvious that the guys on radio communication, so the people don't park in each other's way. The downside of this is if it's a really good sighting, the guys will usually rotate between each other. So depending on reserve, they usually give each other maybe 25, 30 minutes in a particular sighting before you then have to make way for another vehicle to come in. Whereas East Africa, if you have something like this, yes, there is the possibility maybe that you get some guy that sort of pulls in front of you or you know, pulls in behind the animal. A lot of the times, you know, we found that if you just ask them politely, you know, a lot of these guys are not photographic orientated, you know, so don't think of things like that. But if you just speak to them nicely, they'll make way. The positive, a real big positive behind this is in East Africa, there's no time limit spending time with a particular animal, except for that you have to be back at camp a certain time in the evenings. I know in Masai Mara, I think it's 7 o'clock. So yeah, you can't do the night drives in East Africa unless you go to some of the private concessions, whereas in South Africa, you've got the night drive option available to you. Okay, even in South Africa, there's also quite a few areas that are very diverse. This is in Tswalu, which is, again, like you can see, very different to the Sabi Sands area. It's a semi-desert environment. And it's basically sort of almost the start of the Kalahari Desert, like they call it like the green belt of the Kalahari. And there again, you get very iconic animals in this kind of environment. This is a gemsbok or an oryx that are known for thriving in those sort of harsh environments. Okay, also very good cheetah viewing. You can see something that is very unique about that Kalahari area, and also in Madikwe as well, actually, the red soil, which is absolutely beautiful. You often get elephants having a mud bath. You get these rich red elephants. And then also you might want to go to a place that has got sort of more waterways to your disposal. This is the beautiful Okavango Delta. And I think also similar to East Africa, I think a lot of the documentaries that have been showing on BBC and Nat Geo, the Okavango Delta is always there and thereabouts. You know, you often see these aquatic lions sort of that, excuse me, that hunt in the water, that swim through these channels. And the Okavango Delta is really one of the few places where you get to experience that. It also gives you the ability, I'm going to make this a bit bigger, also gives you the ability to do, again, unique safaris. So this is a Mokoro, which is dugout canoes. And the guys have become very sort of how can I put it, conservation minded almost in a way from, conducting these particular safaris. These Mokoras used to be done by sort of dugout canoes, which is obviously wood, but nowadays they've used fiberglass just to stop the deforestation. Incredible experience, very, very peaceful, and a great way to enjoy the bird life of the Okavango Delta. There's also motorboats that you can do, and then usually navigate around these small channels. And this allows you just to get closer to some of the bigger animals, maybe some hippos or elephants that are often in these papyrus. Whereas with the Mokoro, you obviously want to try and avoid getting too close to hippos and elephants and crocodiles. Like I mentioned, the animals also in the Delta have really sort of adapted to these water systems. This is when the flood really comes in from about sort of June, July. You get these beautiful floodplains and wild dogs, lions going through there. And also, again, iconic antelope species such as red lechwe that run through these waters. It is something unique. It is something very different and not something you get in sort of every destination. Another iconic place and one of my favorites. I mean, I just want to sort of see. Let's quickly check in the comments. Who can sort of tell me where this is? Let's see the chat. See if I can. Yeah, Mana Pools, Elena, bang on. Mana Pools. And I'm really glad that you guys got that, because it's such a unique destination and such a unique experience. This you can't get anywhere else in the world. It is a phenomenal experience to be on foot with elephants, with lions sometimes, and even wild dogs in Mana Pools. Is really, really spectacular. Now, something that a question a lot of people often ask is, how long are the walks in Mana? Let me tell you, I mean, I've been going for the last sort of 4 or 5 years, and it's not a sort of massive hike where you're doing 10, 15, 20 miles. So what you would do in Mana is we would leave the camp in the mornings or in the afternoons by vehicle. You drive around, and the road network in Mana Pools is quite limited, right? So you stick on the main roads, and then if you find an elephant in this forest, you would then jump out of the vehicle. You have a guide that's got a rifle, obviously for safety reasons, and you would then approach that animal and follow them and photograph them on foot. Depending on how far that animal moves, that will determine the distance of your walks, but hardly ever will walk sort of more than a couple of miles, mile or two at max. The terrain is very flat, and the only thing that you need to watch out for is, because of this area's got like black cotton soil, so it becomes like how can I say, like almost like jelly almost. So once, after the rain, the elephants walk in there, they leave these like potholes almost. So you have to be careful from your footing point of view. You don't turn your ankle on that, but it's flat, easy to walk, and incredible experiences. Again, something like this, you don't get that in many places. Elephants that sort of reach up for these pods from the anna trees or the winter thorns. Iconic destination and iconic experiences. Yeah, I just want to see, there's a question that came through here. Speaking of Mana Pools, are the plans for doing that adventure tour that was offered a couple of years ago? Helena, not at this particular stage. Might be something we'll look at maybe in the future, but we can always customize something like that together for you. But to put it out as a scheduled safari, we found that probably not enough interest to keep it going. But we are setting up some very cool Mana Pools experiences where we do the floodplain of Mana Pools and we combine it with Kanga Camp, which is gives you basically the best of Mana Pools. And then we also have another one that we're working on. The dates are out for 2021. I'm busy with the dates for 2022, where we combine Mana Pools with this destination, South Luangwa, which is, it really is some of the best combinations of Southern Africa. South Luangwa is, again, probably one of my favorite places, very iconic because of that Luangwa River that really becomes a source of life for the animals, especially during the dry season. And it just, I mean, the scale of the place is phenomenal. Okay, also a great place to photograph carmine bee eaters. It's so they've got these hides at Shenton. So that's the hide. It's basically a boat that they've anchored. It's got like little blinds around it, and then you canoe, usually in the mornings, canoe to this little spot, and you can then have a close-up view of these carmine bee eaters as they nest in the banks. They usually start sort of coming through, I think it's about August, if I'm not mistaken, July, August, they usually come through. I love going to monopools in October and to South Luangwa. It is very hot, but that means the animals are attracted to the water, and also your migratory birds have started coming in. So a really good time to photograph the carmine bee eaters. They are a lot of fun to photograph, let me tell you. It's not the easiest thing or easiest subject to photograph, but once you nail it, it is a lot of fun. Okay, they've also got the hippo hide, which we usually do in the afternoons. And as you can see, you get sort of nice low angle shots that you can get of the hippos, and it really is dead easy. And it's also, I mean, I really enjoy, these kind of sort of hides that you're not closed off, you're still part of nature. There's no sort of window in front of you, and it just allows you to get a different photographic experience. So like I mentioned, we usually in the mornings we'll go to do the bee eater hide, and then in the afternoons you then do the hippos. The guys have always got a radio with them, so if there are other sightings that are worthwhile going to, then we'll obviously head back there. But it's a fantastic destination also for leopard, amazing leopard view. Again, Southern Africa, like I mentioned, you can see here the ability to be able to go off-road. It really is a big attraction. And the guys usually do that for your main, like high-profile species. So any of your big cats, lion, leopard, or cheetah. And then, sometimes for like maybe some rhino, white rhino, maybe at times. But yeah, it is a big draw card. And as you can see, animals very relaxed with the presence of people. I'm going to see if there's any questions regarding South Africa and East Africa before we then go on to the kind of accommodation and the different accommodations that you can get on safari. Let's see. Doesn't seem like there's any questions, or there we go. There's one coming through. Okay. What would my favorite reserve in Southern Africa be? Sure, that's such a difficult one. I think, once again, it all just depends what you want to experience. Like I love all of them, but I really get my excitement from the experiences that my guests have. So, if you're going with a certain goal, like going to monopools to photograph one of the elephant bulls on their hind legs, it is very rewarding to be able to then go to monopools and walk and achieve those results. Similar to what it is, to have your guest nail a bee eater shot or get a fantastic leopard portrait in South Luangwa. So I really enjoy all of them. I think if I had to choose one as an overall sort of type of experience, South Luangwa is always right up there. Okay, so different accommodation. I think this is one of the vital aspects to photography. There's so many different types of accommodation. Once again, it depends what you want to experience, and budget is also sometimes a big factor when it comes to these things. So this is our tent in the Masai Mara. This is quite an old photo. Things have changed a little bit since then, but you can see a tent, 2 single beds inside, And then let me just go out and I can show you with the mouse. Over here, there's a rack inside where you can then sort of hang your clothes. Also, when there's a luggage rack, you can put your bags up there. And then there's also a toilet, ensuite bathroom where you've got your own flush loo in the corner here now, and then a bucket shower. Now, a lot of the times people look at this for the first time and think, holy hell, do I have to stay in that? I promise you, I've had people, CEOs of big companies, people that only do luxury travel. The experience that you get from staying in a tent like this is unbelievable. The beds are super comfortable. You also get like a hot water bottle in your bed in the evenings, and the sounds that you hear in the evenings is truly breathtaking. Every time I go to the Masai Mara, at least one or two of the evenings, I'll set my alarm for like 2 or 3 in the morning and just listen to the sounds. It is absolutely spectacular. One of the things that you have to sort of realize, if you book more rustic accommodation like this, is the chances of getting a bug in your tent or something like that is a little bit higher, because you're more part of nature. But I mean, Dixon, the guys, shame, bless their souls, they've been called for all sorts of things. They've removed a frog or a mosquito out of the room, and yeah, it is what it is when it comes to that type of accommodation. This is our a lounge area. Is also sort of changed quite a bit. We've now combined this together with the dining room, but again, basic, but it just feels like home. It really is a warm experience. People are forced to sort of gather around. There are not too many sort of entertainment areas that people can go to. This, for me, this is what safari is all about. I cannot describe to you the friendships, the memories that have been made around that fire in the Masai Mara. And for me, any camp I go to, I would encourage my guests to sit around the fire. There's something about it, that sitting around the fire, listening to the sounds in the evening, that you can't experience in many places. And I think, a lot of the places, the lodges and things have gone away with fires. I really feel it's missing a trick and missing part of that experience. This is, again, it's just our team in the Mara doing their thing, just explaining a little bit more about their culture. And it's special moments. And a lot of the time you speak to people that have been to a Mara camp, and the staff plays such a vital role. I mean, the game being is amazing, put that aside, but these sort of experiences and these moments around the fire is what brings people back. I still haven't seen, there hasn't been a camp where I've seen so many people cry when they leave than at the Mara camp, that's for sure. Excuse me. This is then sort of a little bit more of the high-end side of things. A lot of the lodges in South Africa have gone this particular route, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It is amazing. It's incredible to have this amount of luxury. It's everything to your disposal. I mean, this is a room. I mean, it's the size of a house. You've got your own plunge pool. Inside, you've got your own fridge with drinks. You've got your own coffee station. You can have a massage in your room. You can have food delivered to your room, all sorts. I mean, it is luxury to the fullest extent, that everything that you can possibly imagine. And your chances then of encountering bugs and things in places like this, it is a little bit less. For me, the downside of places like this is I feel there's a bit of a disconnection then between your accommodation and wildlife. Again, that's just my personal opinion. Look, I love the luxury, make no mistake. But if you want to sort of be part of nature and listen to those lions calling when they a few hundred meters from your camp, that's when you want to be more in the rustic sort of type of accommodation. You can see big glass windows. again, it keeps those bugs away. And I mean, the staff here are super well trained to look for those sort of things. But yeah, I do feel there is a bit of a disconnect when you go luxury like this. Guys, there's so many options out there, but it's all about what you'd like to experience. I'll leave my email down at the bottom there. So if you guys want to chat the safari, I mean, like I said, it's by no means a sales pitch or anything like that, but I really want to try and help you guys to narrow down 1 or 2 or 3 destinations that you want to travel to for your safari experience. I think, I've spoken to a lot of people that have often booked trips by themselves. They get to a particular destination and the website, everything looks amazing. They get there and it's not what they expected it to be. So, yeah, my email's down at the bottom there. Excuse me, something just flew into my eye. Email's down at the bottom there. If you guys want to chat safari and things, then please give me a shout. Now, like I mentioned, I mean, it's quite a sort of strange situation at the moment with the travel bans, and obviously can't fly anywhere at the moment. But funny enough, I've been chatting to quite a few people and guests this last week, and I work pretty closely with our logistics team to get trips set up for the future, for 2021 and also now 2022. Now, a lot of the lodges have been kind enough to then postpone safaris for this year that we couldn't make. So what we've done is, for the safaris that people couldn't travel this year, we've moved it across to 2021. And one of the, it's quite a sort of bizarre thing to think about, but one of the biggest challenges we're facing for next year, for 2021, is actually availability. Now, yeah, this is bizarre to think we can't travel now, but we want to travel next year. Space is very limited. So I think it's something that you need to consider if planning to come on safari, is to really start sort of getting into the swing of things sooner rather than later. I know a lot of the properties or countries, I know Botswana is a big issue to try and get availability. A lot of people have moved their safaris over to next year, which, yeah, if you want to get into the prime time of the year, you obviously want to get to the delta, like I showed you, when there's a lot of water. If you want to get to those places at the peak time of the year, you need to start sort of thinking about safaris pretty soon. I've got no doubt that by next year this travel thing will go ahead, and that's why we've also sort of I've been chatting to a lot of the companies that we've been using, and we're now in the process. Actually started with it towards the end of last week, putting together safaris for 2022. So it's a lot of the safaris that we currently have, like the Serengeti, the Masai Mara, Mana Pool, South Okavango. A lot of these trips that we've been running, we've now put it up to 2022. And the really cool thing about this is, because it's so far in advance, a lot of the lodges have honored 2021 rates for us. Other cool thing is that now all of a sudden, if you're booking for trips in 2022, you can pay with smaller deposits. Excuse me. So you can have like smaller 25% deposits, 4 of them over a period of time, which helps you to plan a little bit ahead. I understand. I mean, the downside is, it is a long way or a long time in advance to be able to sort of think where you're going to be and what's going to be going on. But lodges are definitely sort of changing their thought process about bookings, and especially in advance. Like I mentioned, I mean, this year, not much we can do about it, but we want to make sure that we secure the dates for the peak times for 2021 and 2022. 2021 actually has already been accounted for. And like I mentioned, with a lot of the safaris from this year moving over, I actually sort of just briefly went through my calendar for next year, and it's going to be non-stop. It's going to be back-to-back trips, which is I'm very excited about. But there is the issue of availability, especially for a lot of the private guided safaris where we're not holding space. At least for our scheduled departures, we've blocked off dates already with the certain lodges and companies. But for private guided safaris, I would urge you guys, if you're thinking of safari, then really start sort of thinking about that sooner rather than later. Iago asks, have I been to Kafue National Park? Is it any good? I haven't been to Kafue personally, but I have heard great things about it. Yeah, I've seen some incredible photographs, but personally haven't been there. Okay. I think Andrew Danquist is a good person to speak to. He's actually he's been to Kafue quite a few times. So if you hit him up on Instagram, just Andrew Danquist, or if you want to email him, it's Andrew D. D for donkey at wildlife.co.za. He'll be able to give you more information about Kafue National Park. Okay, Helena, thanks so much. Fingers crossed it's for this year. Hope so. I hope so. I think the next few weeks and few months are going to be very interesting. It's going to give us quite a sort of clear idea. Our tourism side of things, there's been rumors or talks going around that they're looking at for South Africa, they're looking at September, October as the earliest that will open up. So we'll have to see. But like I said, yeah, we're in the process. We're making sure we're going to secure the best dates available for you guys for 2022. And like I mentioned, the payment plans that go with that is definitely very attractive. And also the fact that a lot of the lodges can give us 2021 rates, which I'm very excited about. That'll be one of my tasks for the rest of this week and also going into next week, is working with our logistical team, with Judy and with Laura, and also with Marlon to put these safaris together and the dates together. And we'll be sure to let you guys know as soon as they're on the website. Guys, I think that's it. We'll see if there's any last minute questions. Otherwise, I hope this has inspired you guys. Remember, the traveling thing is not going to be over forever. I know as hard as it is to swallow now, I know we've all had to make sacrifices to delay travels and things, but it's not going to go on forever, right? We're going to be able to travel again. And man, if I look at those photos just sitting on the fire, it's going to be so much sweeter when we get back there. All right, let's see. There's one more. Charlotte, thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for all your kind feedback, for giving me some time. And yeah, have a good evening, good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you might be. And yeah, stay safe out there, stay positive, and we'll chat to you guys pretty soon. Until next time, cheers.